have something I'm going to do to my Kawasaki that I thought maybe might be interesting to some people who are new into bikes. Maybe don't have a lot of experience with chains, sprockets, and all that kind of stuff. What I'm here today to do is to show you something. So, when you buy a motorcycle chain, it'll come with a link to connect the two ends, right? Because you got a new chain, it's one long piece, it's not a complete circle yet. You've got to connect it. So it comes with a link that you use in each end to bring it together. And usually it's got like a little clip that goes over the two prongs that stick out, the two legs of the clip. I don't know the correct terminology. The two legs of the clip stick through. I'm going to show you in a second anyway. And another clip goes over that, holds it into place. It's called a master link. The clip type, I don't really care for it. Now there's another kind of master link, which is what I'm going to be putting in here today, and it is the kind that you rivet. The factory rivets them, presses them. The master link with the clip type have been known in some circumstances to come undone, your chain falls apart, and you're screwed. So I find them generally weaker than a riveted type. So what I did was I went to Amazon, I bought a 520 chain. This is a 520 chain. I bought a 520 chain link, and it's the rivet type. The part number is right there, if you can see that. And we're going to install this on the bike today. Okay, so here's what I'm talking about. These are your chain links, and those little round parts in the middle of each link are your rivets. Now you see how it's got a little dimple in it? Each and every one of them do. That's from being riveted or pressed. Those are not going to come apart. In fact, you've got to grind them off to remove the chain. All right, so the tools that we're going to need to do this, we're going to just use a little caliper, a little digital caliper, and that's just to get an idea of the proper width of the chain links from the factory. A chain breaker, they're all relatively cheap and they're all relatively similar. So this is a Pit Posse brand, and you'll see it's very similar. Okay, so the first thing that we got to do is I got to grind off these two heads of those two pins that are coming through. We got to grind those off so I can then push that link out. So all I'm using for that is just a regular grinder, nothing special at all. You can do this with a Dremel if you don't have a grinder. You're not going to be able to really go flat with it because you don't want to grind off the links next to the one that you're trying to remove. So kind of go at a little bit of an angle. You're going to this part that's got the X marked on it, you're going to be getting rid of that anyway. So don't worry about damaging that. The new link that you get comes with a new plate. So go ahead and score it up and grind into it, no problem. So I'm going to take care of that real quick. Okay, that's all there is to it for that. From the factory, these have a certain width, I guess, to them. I want to get an idea what that is, because what you're going to do is you're going to press this new plate on, and you're going to squash down the X O-rings, and you want to make sure that you're in the same ballpark before you rivet it. And all we're going to do is we're going to open it up, and we're going to go on a rivet on either side. I think will be sufficient. We'll go on this one, and we'll go on this one, and we're just going to measure it. We're going to put our calipers between each pin. All right, the first one is 18.1, and then the other one next to it, 18.4. Now, the first thing that we got to do is we've got to press out the old link. To remove the pin, you'll see when you're looking at this clamp, the end of it, the opposite end, not the screw side, the opposite side has got a hole in it. And that hole we're going to put over the rivet end on the other side of the chain. So it's just going to go up there and you'll feel it. It'll set over top of it nicely. mostly nicely. And then you want to bring down the turn screw as close as you can before you bring out the press, the pin press. Now it's real difficult to see this. After you grind those heads off, you're going to see a nice round outline. I'm probably just going to grab an adjustable wrench. Ah, you know what? Screw it. Let me get the right one. It's a 22. 22. You're very simply going to hold on to your body of your clamp, and you're going to just slowly start to turn this. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but as you turn it, you're going to feel it start to get easier. And what's happening is you're pushing that pin through the hole on the back side. There are 2 turn screws here that you have to tighten down. So now do your fine adjustment, and you'll feel that the tension has really gotten pretty light on this screw. Just keep turning until you feel the pin push all the way through. There we go. Pins all the way through. In fact, I can pull it out right now. So there's the pin. Now, before I go any further, the zip tie. When you remove this last pin and that plate comes off, nothing's holding the chain together anymore. It's going to come apart. So what I like to do is I take a zip tie. All this is going to do, it's going to keep this chain from separating. Because what happens is it rolls off your sprockets, and it becomes rather hard to get the 2 ends back together. It'll only be off a very little bit. But usually what I end up having to do is loosen up my rear axle, push the wheel in to make it so I can connect the chain, and then go through all those adjustments again. I'd rather not do that. So this little zip tie, while it's not perfect, it's going to hold that chain together so they don't separate. We're just going to undo this. If you're familiar with a channel called Delroy's Garage, I think, it's a fella out of England. He did a video on these. Excellent videos, very detailed in how they work and how you do the measurements and all that stuff. So I recommend that you go find that. Delroy's Garage, or Del Boy's Garage. Man, I'm sorry, I wish I remembered your channel name, but this just made me realize something. It's better to leave that first pin in, because now I've got nothing holding that in place. The other pin, if I had left it in, would hold this together, and I could push this other one out much easier than I'm going to be able to. Maybe I should have watched Delroy's video again before I did this job. Oh, yeah. It's going through, no problem. Okay, so here we go. Here's the link. This pin I left in there. I didn't push it all the way through. But there's the plate that we ground, the old O-rings that came out, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Now all you got to do here is just make sure that the O-rings that were on there the first time are gone, that they all came off. What you've got here are 2 empty holes where the old link used to be. All right, so what we're looking at here are the new clip, the new link, and a new faceplate, and 4 O-rings. All we're going to do with this is we're going to go and open up the grease. We're going to grease up the new link plate. We're going to put on an O-ring on both sides. We're going to make sure that those O-rings are nice and greased up, these new ones that we're putting on. We're going to go around to the back side of the bike chain. We're going to push this through. Once it's through, we're going to grease these O-rings up. We're going to put them on. These are going to go on here once they're greased up, right? And then this new faceplate is going to go on there. We're going to squeeze it together appropriately, and then we're going to use the press and rivet them down. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to take this piece, and we are going to put a sufficient amount of lube on it. Now all you got to do is just squeeze a little out, squeeze it on there, both pins. So we got it all greased up. We're going to take one of these O-rings. We're going to get a little grease out. We're going to rub this O-ring all in the grease. We want this all lubed up. We're going to take our new clip. We're going to push it on there. Plenty of grease. Take the next ring, put some grease on it, rub it in there, grease it up. You should have a nice greased up ring. Slide that onto the other one. Okay? Now, we've got a ring on both of these shafts, and it's got some grease on it, but we have more, so we're going to put more. All right, so we're greased up. We are greased up now. So what we're going to do is we're going to come around to the back side. We're going to slide it through to the front. We're going to take a little grease and we're going to put it on here. On each end. Push this through. Smear that grease on. You're not going to hurt anything. Get everything greasy. Okay, afterwards if you want to, if you feel the need, clean your chain. But you're going to be fine. So get it all greasy. Put a O-ring on there. When I get this other O-ring in place, I'm going to quickly try to get the plate on there. Okay, so the other ring's on there. All right, so that's not going to be on there enough. Now you can grab like a pair of vice grips, like I should have, and put that on there and tighten it down. I'm going to hope for the best. And I can hope in one hand and shit in the other and see which one gets full first. All right, that's going to hold it in place. Let's get rid of our zip tie. We don't need that anymore. Now the same tool that we use to take this chain apart, we're going to use to put this chain together. One of the important pieces that you have to have for this part of the job is this little plate. This is the other plate that you're going to use. This one's going to go on the back side of the chain, and it's going to hold the pins and push them through. Okay, so this is what the tool is going to look like to put it back together. You're going to have the one with the holes on one side and the flat one on the other. So it's going to go up there like this. So the tricky part here now is the vice grips getting removed. Now what you like to do ideally is be able to squish this together well enough to where it stays together. All I'm going to do here is I'm going to put this in place, and what I've got is just one of the push pins to remove it. To remove the pins, I'm going to use this to kind of push that plate together. Hopefully it'll make more sense when you see me do it. The reason I'm doing that is so I know that I have enough room to get that press plate with the holes in it over top of the pins properly. That makes sense? I'm not sure it does. It makes sense in my head. Don't go crazy with it, because what you don't want to do is bend that plate. You don't want to bend that little gold plate, the horseshoe plate, dog bone. Okay, but see, now I've pushed it together enough to where when I put this on there, I'll be able to feel, I can feel one much easier than the other. Remember when I measured the plates earlier? Let's take a look now. So remember that either of these were 18.1 and 18.4, I think. Let's take a look now and see what the one we just did is. We are at 18.6. Talking about these little two nipples.
I had no idea you could milk a cat.
Oh yeah, you can milk anything with nipples.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Are what we're going to rivet. They're not going to look quite like this, but they're going to smash over and flatten. but I want those to come through a little bit more. And now this one, when it goes on there, yes, now I can feel clearly that it's on the pins, and they'll push through the holes with no problem. All right, very good. Now, let's just take this tool. Let's tighten this down a little bit more. That'll probably be it. That'll probably do it right there, ladies and gentlemen. All right, what we gotta do, now we've got to press these two. So it uses a little, there we go, a little ball bearing inserted into this piece that's gonna screw into the vise. You ain't gotta go with a wrench and tighten it up or nothing, just finger tight's all you need. Now that ball bearing, what that's gonna do is it's gonna sit nicely inside of that little dimple. This little anvil is just gonna sit in there. And it's got a little dimple in it. Okay, that dimple on the back side of the chain is just gonna sit over a head and hold it so it can't come backwards. And for this, I'm gonna install the handle that I didn't use earlier. Kind of makes life a little easier holding this clamp. Go up here and get on the back side of one of them. Doesn't matter which one. We're gonna wheel this in closely, keeping an eye on the ball bearing, make sure it goes into that dimple. Okay, there we go. You see the tool sits there by itself. We're gonna hold the handle, and we're gonna give this a few turns. And what's gonna happen is that ball bearing is gonna smush down and rivet that pin in place. Now you gotta do this by hand. You cannot use hand tool or power tools. It's gonna be way too much. It only takes a little bit. In fact, I think I'm done with this first one. Let's see if I can loosen it up. All right, now you can hopefully see that. This piece right here flared out with the with the ball bearing. It flared it out and riveted this so it's not going anywhere. We just got to do that one more time on the other side. Take my 22 millimeter and just give this a few good squashes. I don't think squash is the technical term, but it might be. Let's see if we got a, we do. We got a squished over, smushed over. Now we've got a properly riveted chain. Now let's see, just for grins, just for hoots and hollers, shits and giggles, I think is the right phrase. Let's take a look and see what we've got. 18.5, good, good, good. Okay, so that's a success. So that's it. There's not much more to say about this. All you're doing is you're removing your old one. You're going to grind. Let's recap. So I appreciate everyone watching. Hopefully I can edit this down to a much smoother video. Thanks for watching. Ride safe, ride often. Peace out.